It is 6 o'clock, December 19th, 2023. This is the City of Commerce regular City Council meeting. Welcome. Tonight, our moment of invocation is being provided by Pastor David Lay with the Bread of Life Church of the Nazarene, located at Highway 224. Pastor Lay has been ordained for 15 years and has been ministering at the Bread of Life Church for the last 8 years. Bread of Life Church of the Nazarene has been a part of Commerce since 1990, when it started in a local downtown bakery. The church has weekly Sunday services at 10:45, allowing patrons to grow their faith and serve others in the community. The church also has a food pantry, which serves over 300 families monthly. Pastor Lay, please come forward and lead us in the invocation.
Thank you for the opportunity. You'll pray this morning or this evening. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather before you today, grateful for the opportunity to come together as a community within the heart of Commerce. We offer our sincerest thanks for the dedication and tireless efforts of our esteemed council members. Their unwavering commitment to serve the citizens of this great city is a testament to their selflessness and devotion. We ask for your blessings upon each one of them as they deliberate and make decisions that will shape the future of our beloved city. In these challenging times, we seek your divine guidance and wisdom to be bestowed upon the council members. Grant them clarity of mind and compassion of heart as they navigate the issues facing our community. May their decisions be guided by a genuine concern for the welfare of all citizens. Father, we bring before you the current events and concerns that weigh upon our hearts. May your grace provide comfort to those facing hardships and inspire solutions through the collective efforts of this council. Grant them discernment to address these challenges with courage and resolve, always mindful of the greater good and the well-being of our entire community. As we embark on this meeting, we humbly ask for your grace to prevail within these chambers. May our discourse be characterized by respect, by understanding, and by a commitment to civility. Grant us the strength to embrace our differences while seeking common ground for the betterment of Commerce. Finally, Lord, instill within us a profound sense of unity, reminding us that we are bound together as neighbors and friends, sharing a common vision for the flourishing of this city. May our shared mission be one of cooperation, empathy, and service to one another. It is in your boundless love and mercy that we place our trust and offer this prayer, knowing that your guidance for Commerce will continue to thrive and shine as a beacon of hope and community spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Lay. For our Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we have the second grade Commerce Youth Boys basketball team, the Commerce Tigers, along with their coach, Ricky Brown. Please give a warm welcome to the Commerce Tigers players. And boys, if you would, give us a wave when I call your name. Colt Heady, Heath Landrum, Landry Mayu, Jet McCracken, and Jackson Sloan. All right, fellas, lead us in the pledge if you would. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it. Item 4 on our agenda tonight is the consent agenda. Please take a moment and look at the consent agenda and let me know if you have any questions. There being no questions, may I have a motion?
Move to accept the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, presentation to the city council by members of the public. This period is reserved for citizens to discuss items not on the listed agenda. The response to public comments will be limited to a statement of fact or policy, direction to take up the issue with a city staff member, and an offer to place an item on a future council agenda. The time period is 3 minutes limit per person. I do have 2 cards tonight. So, Ricky Johnston, please come forward and provide your address.
How y'all tonight?
Doing well, sir.
I just come up to, with my concerns about property that I had removed from 920 Bishop Street. I know I'm not the owner over there, but I do pay the utility bills and all. And we're good friends, like I say, with the owners. And me and Steve got together and, moved some stuff over there. There was some stuff piled up that I know I needed to move, and I moved it. And I'd even talked to Howdy the day before the city came over and cleaned up, because I knew they were gonna be there that day. I got it through the grapevine that they were gonna be there, and they did drive by. And, I motioned for them to even stop, try and talk to one of them, to see if I was out of compliance. I was trying to be within compliance, which meant Howdy talked about on the phone, because I discussed my lawnmowers with him, and he said, everything, as long as they run all, they should be fine. Well, the next day I went over to feed my animals over there, and everything, there wasn't nothing but dirt left. I mean, I had nothing in the yard. All my items were either setting up on concrete around the front porch or in front of the garage area. And my lawnmowers were in the driveway. One of them had the battery charger on it, extension cords and all hooked up, I just cranked them the day before. And when the city came and picked them up, you can ask Howdy, there was nothing left. He did assist me in going and picking up a few of my items, which I commend him for that. But it's one of the things that, we have a whole lot of communication when it comes to, have we done what we need to do? Or y'all gonna come just take everything? And that's kind of what the guys at the city said. Rick, why didn't you move your stuff? And I thought, I really thought I was in compliance. So we need a little more communication there, because I'm out quite a bit of money, which I furnished Howdy a number marked, and was probably a little thin, more really, as what I have. People say, well, you left it over there. Who's to guard it? I have never had a problem with anything that takes over there. I've got neighbors that watching everything else. And, like I say, we just need communication. And if we're not within compliance, tell us, get with us. And, we'll see that it's done. But just don't come get our stuff and say, it's gone now. And what else can I say, guys? That's kind of where I'm at with this. And like I say, out of a bunch of money, and like I say, I'd like to be compensated for it, whether I get anything or not. But I would like it to, get around that we need more communication in this town than we're getting. And with that, I'll say good night to y'all.
Thank you very much for coming, sir. The second card I have is Frank Higgins. Hi, Frank.
You know what my problem is over on North Mill? You know what everybody's problem is on North Mill when you have a petition that was signed by everybody in the neighborhood about this semi-truck getting off of North Mill. The chief can't do what he needs to do with what he has on the force right now. He's gonna have to do course, I've got, you said something, one of the meetings, you said something about speed humps costing $2,000 a piece. They don't cost $2,000 a piece. They cost $640 a piece. I've looked online everywhere. I can get them for $640 a piece. That doesn't include, of course, mounting them to the road, but that's $640. That's pretty cheap for a speed bump. It's cheap and maybe it's safe. I was told we were going to put flashing lights at the signs. I was also told we were going to have a bigger sign that was going to say that the city ordinance number and a $200 fine and all of this, and put flashing solar lights on top of them so the truck drivers couldn't say, I didn't see the sign when they drive through. That's what we're having right now. The police officers that do stop the trucks, they're not issuing tickets that I know of. I haven't seen one truck driver get a ticket other than the one that the chief wrote. He contacted me and said he did write a ticket for one of the flatbeds going through there. But it doesn't stop them. You know, when you just warn them, that's like warning a 5-year-old kid to stay out of your garden. You don't spank him, he's going to be right back in the garden. He's not fun. I don't mean spank him. Go through there, ball bat, and start flailing away. Like we got trained when we did wrong. But if they don't get a ticket, they're just going to continue coming down. You know, there's one driver, he just refuses. And I've told him, I've given him a copy of the city ordinance, and that's a FedEx driver. He just, every day, he's down through there. There's another one called West Coast. I gave him a copy of the city ordinance. Doesn't care. He threw it out the window and drove off. So, we need to do something about speed humps and stop signs. That's what I mentioned when I was here the last time, 3 stop signs and 4 speed humps. I've given you an inexpensive way to do that with this company. They have these things in stock and can ship them right away. Free shipping. So, if you want to know more, just get with me. I don't know, I'm pretty adamant about this. Every one of you know I'm up here talking about this every time I come up here. Every time. So, thank you. See you next month.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Howdy Lazenby City Manager, would you like to address the public comments tonight?
Is that all? Are there any more public comments?
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak to the council tonight? Please take the podium, sir. Please provide your name and address.
Well, it's been a little over a year now, so the street issue on Park is still an issue, but and maybe somebody can define this for me, because I tried to look on DOT. Is 224 going through town, is that a truck route?
According to our ordinance, yes.
Mark,
It is
yes.
a truck route,
According to our ordinance, yes.
because last
24 or 224?
24, they're Park.
That's Highway 11. That's not 224 is out on the edge of
224,
town.
yeah, right, okay, so 11.
Highway 11, as it goes through to down Culver to Highway 24 and then up 24, that is the designated truck route. Park Street is not a designated truck route.
Culver through City Park over to 224.
That is not a designated truck route.
Laws are on the books for a reason. And I'll go back almost 50 years. I worked with a young man 2 years younger than I, and I said, man, you shouldn't be smoking pot. That's illegal. And his response to me, so is speeding until you get caught. So if the laws are on the books, then we need to be enforcing them, not with warnings. The signs are up. But didn't we have a hole in the road that had to be repaired by DOT 2 weeks ago or last week?
Because of an underground storm drain that had failed.
A lot of weight, though, goes on that street that shouldn't be on there. Same thing with our sinkhole right up here. So if it's not a designated truck route, I see business signs, but I don't see anything truck route. It needs to be designated. I understand it's an expense, but I'm looking out for our tax dollars having to come in and repair a road.
TxDOT repaired that. That's TxDOT right away.
It doesn't matter if it's TxDOT, it's still our community that vehicles are traveling that they shouldn't be traveling on.
Sure.
Is that not true?
Well, you're implying that the city is spending local tax dollars to repair those streets, and we are not.
Enforcement of the laws then, how about that? Same thing. It would save a lot of headaches and money. So, appreciate what Frank is trying to amend. Like I said, we've been talking about this. We're tired of the vehicles. If we can eliminate as many vehicles coming down our residential street, it sure would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else that wishes to address the council tonight? If not, Mr. Lisenby, city manager.
The responses are limited to statement of fact of policy. And so with respect to Mr. Johnson, we lawfully notify the property owner of the nuisance conditions on that property. We gave all the time required under state law to abate and remove and voluntary comply. Mr. Johnson is not the property owner and is not allowed to negotiate before the Board of Building Standards, and he's not allowed to negotiate enforcement because he's not the property owner. He was given more than adequate time to remove his property from the location. He did not do so. He did reference that he and I had a phone call. I did tell him that if you had lawnmowers that operated, I thought that would be fine, but ultimately it was up to the decision of the code enforcement officer to determine whether it was property or if it was rubbish and debris. And our code enforcement officer made the decision, made the call, and we abated the problem. When we lawfully notify a property owner and we lawfully remove rubbish and debris, we will not compensate whoever owns that property. If we did that, it would eliminate any effort that we made to clean up rubbish and debris around town. And so we operated lawfully, and we will not provide compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Lisenby.
Regarding to Mr. Higgins, Frank, thank you for coming again. We have had a number of conversations about this issue. I have instructed Chief and his team to increase patrol and enforcement through those areas, and they have responded and done so. I also took a member of my staff and had them set up and do a count of how many vehicles are traveling through this area. On Monday, we had 7 semi-trucks travel Park Street. In 1 hour, the most we had was 2. The way our ordinance is written is that they're required to follow the designated truck route if they're coming through town. I mean, if their point of origin was outside of Commerce and their destination is outside of Commerce, they're supposed to travel down Culver all the way to 24 and then up or down 24 to move out of town. If they're making a delivery, they are allowed to exit that truck route and make their delivery. And so of the 7 that we witnessed on Monday, I'm not aware of what their destination was or if they're making a delivery. But when they are stopped by our officers, our police officers always have officer discretion of how they handle that traffic stop. And if I administratively start telling our officers what they will and will not do, then I've removed their discretion and I've interfered with law enforcement. And so we have increased patrol, but I will not tell my officers when to write tickets. Administratively, that's not a line I will cross. So I will continue to give the officers discretion to enforce the law as they see fit at each traffic stop. We have looked at signs and flashing lights, but we're also evaluating whether we're going to spend money on an issue, and we got to determine whether it really is a public policy issue or not. 7 trucks in a day, I don't believe rises to the threshold of a public policy issue. Today, we monitored North Neal Street. There were 3 trucks. 2 of them were leaving the manufactured home facility, and they have permission, and 1 was a FedEx truck. FedEx truck is making deliveries and has permission to travel these streets because they're making deliveries. And so we will not stop and enforce a FedEx truck because they are by definition making deliveries, and they are allowed to do that under our ordinance. I do believe speed humps could slow traffic down, but if we install speed humps, we're going to buy and install the ones that meet our engineered specifications and engineering guidelines. And the cheapest speed hump from the cheapest distributor isn't always the one that meets our engineering specifications. And so I have also found them for $600. I found them for less than that, but I don't believe they meet our specifications. And if we buy cheap and install cheap, we're just going to constantly maintain cheap. So if we do it, I want to do it right. But 2 times I have brought a speed hump ordinance to the council, and y'all have demonstrated that that's not something we're ready to make public policy over yet. And so I will continue to wait for council's direction. Park Street, again, we monitored that on Monday and found 7 trucks that came through that location. Was unable to determine whether they were making a delivery or not, but we'll continue to monitor the situation. And that's my response.
Thank you, Mr. Lisenby. Appreciate your response to the public comments. Moving on to item number 6, council comments. This is where the city council members have the opportunity to respond to the public. So we'll start with Mr. Henry.
I have nothing.
Ms. Mueller.
I'd like to thank several people or several organizations that helped with the Miracle on Main Street that was on December the 2nd. The Commerce Leadership Institute, the City of Commerce, Downtown Alliance, Chamber of Commerce, and then also the Commerce ISD director or choir director, Ms. Anderson, and her choirs. We received a lot of good comments, and we hope to build on this for the next couple of years. And hopefully we'll have someone that will be able to bring in and make this even bigger for us. And I'd like to share a little bit of my time with Administrative Sergeant Wallace to talk to us about the event that they planned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson.
Yes, I would like to thank those in the community that contributed to Commerce Little Angels, and also the members that worked to pull that event off. Each year we do Commerce Little Angels. This year was probably the largest group of kids that we served. We had 537 kids that we provided Christmas gifts to. So obviously you can tell the times are hard for a lot of families, and we're sure there's more need out there. But without the community and without this group, we would not have been able to pull off these numbers, and we appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Councilman Ayers.
I have nothing at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Item 7, presentation of service awards to City of Commerce employees. Mr. Lisenby.
Mayor and council, each year in December, we take the opportunity to recognize employees that have reached significant milestones with our organization of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and beyond. The way in which we serve our community is enhanced by having employees that have and maintain tenure. They grow their knowledge and their skill set. There's a significant expense that is incurred when we have to replace and retrain and grow new employees. And so we want to recognize those employees that have spent a significant portion of their life and their career serving this community. It's a very small token, but nevertheless, it is a token of our appreciation. And so, Mayor, Tequila Johnson is our first. She's a recipient of the 5-year service award. I'm not going to say, unfortunately. Her daughter is a senior, and this is their last district basketball game, and she appropriately decided to go to her daughter's basketball game rather than join us tonight. But we still want to recognize Tequila. She was hired in June of 2018 as a part-time court clerk and associate judge. In October of 2020, she was promoted and hired full-time as the city's court clerk, and she is also an associate judge. She has served this community for 5 years. Blake Spinks. Blake, would you come join us? Blake was hired in October of 2018 as a utility plant operator at the wastewater treatment plant. In April of 2019, he was promoted to Operator 2. Stand in the middle. Then in June 2020, he was promoted to Utility Foreman, and then in December of 2020, Blake was promoted to the plant superintendent overseeing all of the operations of the Commerce Wastewater Treatment Plant. Blake, thank you for your service to our community. You can give the speech next time. Dustin Clark, come join us. Dustin was hired in April of 2018 as a laborer for the Public Works Department. In August of 2020, he transferred to the water treatment plant and served as an operator. In February of 2023, he was appointed the temporary utility supervisor of the water treatment plant. And then in April of 2023, he was promoted to be permanently the plant superintendent of the Commerce Water Treatment Plant. Permanently. So you don't get to leave or go anywhere. That was written that way on purpose. Dustin, thank you for your service to our community. I want to point out between Blake, Dustin, and then the Public Utilities Director, Timothy Jones, we have over 27 years of experience leading the water and wastewater treatment for our community, so thank you to them. Next is Stacy Emerson. She's not able to join us tonight. Stacy was hired in November of 2018. 2018 was a good year, apparently, as a receptionist and utility clerk for the City of Commerce in the Finance Department. In February of 2020, Stacy was promoted to the Accounts Payable Clerk, and in December of 2022, Stacy was again promoted to Utility Specialist. She has served this community for 5 years. And James Matt Hooten, as one of our firefighters, I don't believe he's with us tonight. He was hired in January of 2018 as a part-time firefighter. In January of 2019, he was promoted and hired as a full-time firefighter. Then May of 2020, he received the certificate for an intermediate firefighter. In August 22, Matt was promoted to fire lieutenant, and then in September 2023, he received certification as an advanced firefighter, as a fire inspector, and as a swift water rescue. Matt Hooten has served our community for 5 years. Finally, a 10-year service award goes to Police Chief Bielitz, who is not able to be with us. He has also had an opportunity to spend time with family, and we will never begrudge him of that. Chief Bielitz was hired in 2013 as a patrol officer for the Commerce Police Department. Within 4 years, in May of 2017, Calais was promoted to the administrative sergeant for the Commerce Police Department. Then in 2021, he was promoted to the administrative lieutenant. July of 22, he became the assistant chief of police, and later served as the interim police chief from February 2023 to June of 2023, where he was appointed chief of police for the City of Commerce. Calais has served our community for 10 years. And so we are grateful for all of the employees that continue to commit time and energy to serving our community, and we're thankful for their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lisenby, and thanks to all of the service award recipients that are here tonight. Item number 8, discussion and possible action on a resolution approving an engagement letter with Scott Singleton Fincher and Company, PC, to provide audit services for the City of Commerce for the period beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, fiscal year 2023, and authorizing the mayor and his designee to execute any necessary documentation. Ms. Campbell, Finance Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So it's that time again to get started on our audit for FY '23. And this resolution would allow us to have the services of our auditors, which are Scott, Singleton, Fincher, and Company. If you have any questions, please let me know. But they will be conducting the same audit that they do every year. And they will also be including the additional audit of our federal funding that we've been receiving for the last few years. They will be doing an additional audit on those funds the same that they did last year. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Are there any questions for Ms. Campbell? There being no questions, may I have a motion?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving the signing of an engagement letter between the City of Commerce and Scott Singleton, Fincher, and Company to complete audit services for fiscal year 2023.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, discussion related to setting dates and location of town hall meetings for strategic planning. Mr. Lisenby, City Manager.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to present this tonight. We have and continue to be working on the strategic plan for the City of Commerce. The strategic plan is a document that attempts to look into the future over the next 3 to 5 years and project what we think will be the needs and the requirements of this community in the next 3 to 5 years, establishes some objectives or goals that the council wishes us to pursue, and then we're currently underneath each one of those objectives identifying key results. So in the industry they call them OKRs, or objectives and key results. And then once we flesh that out, then we want to have a series of town hall meetings where we can bring the community in, or at least invite the members of the community to discuss the strategic plan with us and how we look to implement that over the next 3 years. And so we will have the strategic plan wrapped up in January, and then we need to have those town hall meetings before we actually adopt the plan so that we can get feedback and communication with stakeholders. And so the first question would be, is there a day of the week that is preferred to have a public town hall meeting? We traditionally try to focus on Tuesdays and Thursdays because those seem to have the least conflict, but I open it up for your discussion if there's a day of the week that is most advantageous for the council and the community.
Any comments?
I agree that Tuesday or Thursday in my circle would definitely be best.
Are we looking at during the daytime or at the evening?
I would say in the evening after everybody's had an opportunity. We don't want to do it during the day because those that are at work are not allowed to participate.
So Tuesdays are usually, because a lot of the community service organizations meet on Mondays and Thursdays. So Tuesdays would be a better day.
Any other comments? Okay. Is that enough?
All right, so we have a workshop currently scheduled for January 2nd in which we will kind of finalize what those key results are for each of the objectives. We have our regular city council meeting on Tuesday, the 16th. And then so after that, January the 30th would be the final Tuesday of the month. And then as you roll into February, you're looking at the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th as potential dates to have these meetings.
How many are we thinking?
I think we need at least 2, possibly 3. What I would like to do is have 2 community and then 1 that is with the Chamber of Commerce and with our industrial stakeholders, because they might have a different perspective on the strategic plan than the other community stakeholders. And so having an event for them would potentially be a 3rd event that gives them an opportunity to speak.
do we plan to do these public meetings here at City Hall or separate locations?
That's the next question for the group, is about location. My recommendation is not to do it at City Hall, but do it out in the community at a more neutral location. And so we need to talk about what those locations are. But once I have dates, then I can go to those locations and try to schedule them. And so I would submit the workshop on the 6th. If we wanted to do that as one of our town hall meetings, it should already be a time that the council has scheduled, and we can just open that up and find the location. So if February 6th is appropriate, then I would submit that as one of the dates. Yes, February 6th.
And do you think we'll be ready by the 30th in January?
If you tell me to be ready, we'll be ready.
Let's go for January 30th.
So January 30 and February 6th? Okay. And then that would allow us to summarize the feedback, and then our regular meeting on February the 20th. If the council wants to adopt the strategic plan at that regular council meeting, we can. If we need a little bit more time, we can adopt it in March. Our goal is to implement the action steps. We've technically already started implementing some of them, but in April, May is when we start budgeting for the next fiscal year. And so if we've formally adopted the strategic plan, if there are items in there in which we need to commit resources to, we have an opportunity to work it into our budget. And so that would shoot for adoption either at the February meeting on February the 20th or the March meeting on, looks like March the 19th.
Okay, so you had suggested possibly having one for just the industries and stuff. I would hope that we would have two for the town.
Yes.
So I'd like to have another date, and that would put the 13th. That would be, if we were trying to do it before the council meeting in February.
It's the day before Valentine's.
What a good thing to do.
Hey, Valentine's is an important date in my household, so I'm just saying.
But it's
the
the day
14th.
before.
It's the day before, so it's Valentine's Eve. That might be important for some families, I don't know.
Some of us have to work harder.
All right, so February 13th?
Yes, and I'll talk to your wife.
Okay. Thank you.
What time are we looking at?
I would say 6.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Lisenby concerning the town hall meetings for strategic planning?
We need locations. So the January 30th, February the 6th, and February the 13th. We'll try to do 6 p.m. on each of those dates.
Location TBD.
Well, and so let's talk about some of the locations. I know in the past the city has used some of the churches and their fellowship halls as meeting locations. And so possible locations that we've thought through: Mount Moriah, First Baptist Church, First United Methodist Church, the Church of Christ, and I believe the Bread of Life has a big meeting space. Those are 5 churches that would be candidates. Benny Keith has a large meeting room that they open up sometimes. That might be the location for the chamber and the industry conversations. And then if we want to have any of these conversations on campus with faculty and staff of the university, that would be a location. So we've got several options of locations to go for. Do y'all have a preference that you would like to try to go for, or?
North Community Center.
It's
That'd be big enough.
it's a good building, but I think it's limited in size. I think we would fill it up pretty quickly. But it's the housing authority would let us use it.
Mount Moriah then. Is that
I think one of the meetings needs to be in the Norse community.
Yeah. Then Mount Moriah then, if it's not.
And if
If
they're
the
not
other one's
available,
not-
then go after the community
Right.
center. Okay.
I like the Baptist church because it's centrally located.
Okay.
Yeah.
believe we can make that happen.
And then I'll reach out to Benny Keith to see if they would make their meeting space available for the commercial and industrial stakeholders. Okay.
Excellent.
Mayor, that answers all my questions.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you leading out on that. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on the approval of the City of Commerce authorization to issue requests for proposals for administrative services and requests for qualifications for professional services for the 2024 Texas Community Development Block Grant, Texas CDBG program, Downtown Revitalization Program administered by the Texas Department of Agriculture. Mr. Lisenby, City Manager.
Mayor, Council, with the adoption of our downtown master plan, we've identified some improvements that are desperately needed for our downtown district. And so we took that master plan and we submitted a grant application to the Texas Department of Transportation, their Transportation Alternatives Program. That grant application was for approximately $4.7 million. That would have performed all of the improvements necessary for the sidewalks, streetscapes, and lightings and ADA issues within our downtown. We did not get that grant. There were some other entities in Hunt County that were funded. We were not on the funding list, but that work still remains to be done. And so we have engineers that have moved forward with the design of the sidewalk improvements, the ADA accessibility improvements. It would include landscaping, lighting, and other features that are just the primary infrastructure of downtown. This does not include the Central Plaza or the Farmers Market improvements. This is just the sidewalks and streetscapes. The Texas Department of Agriculture has a program called the Downtown Revitalization Grant, and it is a grant maximum of $500,000. It can be used and is intended to be used for sidewalks and ADA accessibility issues. We have more than $500,000 worth of work that's needed, but if we can get $500,000 of somebody else's money, we would love to do so. We are out of grant jail with the Department of Agriculture because of that old raw water project that had been hanging over our heads. And so we would like to put an application in. The Phase 1 application is due in March of 2024, and we have to select a grant administrator. It has to be an organization that's been pre-certified and pre-cleared by the Department of Agriculture. And so they produce a list of eligible grant administrators. And we have to put out a request for proposals and qualifications, send it to these agencies that are on that list. And then from those submittals, we score them and make a recommendation. But it requires that you authorize us to start that process. We traditionally use GrantWorks as our grant consultant, and so they are here if you have any questions that are specific to the TDA and this process. But otherwise, we're asking for you to authorize us to issue these documents and start the process.
Are there any questions for Mr. Lisenby or our guest tonight?
I have one question, just for curiosity. If we receive this grant, and when the other grant comes back around in 2 years from the transportation, does that affect or hurt the likelihood of getting that larger grant in a couple of years, or does it help?
I don't know that it would have any impact at all. It would just, whatever work we perform under the Downtown Revitalization Grant, we would remove that from the scope of the grant application for the larger project. There's much more work that needs to be done.
Right.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for coming tonight. So if there are no questions, may I have a motion, please?
I move that we authorize the city manager to issue a request for proposals and a request for qualifications for services related to the submission of a grant application for the Downtown Revitalization Grant through the Texas Department of Agriculture.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 11, discussion and possible action on an agreement between Bureau Veritas North America Incorporated and the City of Commerce for building inspection and plan review services. Mr. Harper, Assistant Director of Community Development.
Good evening. Shortly after Thanksgiving, I was notified from the big boss over there at Bureau Veritas, our third-party inspection and plan review service company, that our agreement expired November of last year. And we have been continuing as business as usual until it was caught. And so nothing really changes on this aspect. We had them remove the 3-year termination expiration date on there. We also updated the codes from the 2012 to the 2018 that we adopted in March on the agreement. And staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Mr. Harper? There being none, may I have a motion?
I move that we move forward on an agreement with the Bureau Veritas North America and the City of Commerce for building inspection and plan review services.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Harper. Item 12, discussion and possible action on a resolution amending the construction contract with HWH to establish the guaranteed maximum price for construction of the Commerce Animal Shelter project and authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documentation. Mr. Lesenby, City Manager.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to present this tonight. One of the capital improvement projects that we identified a couple of years ago was the need to improve and expand our animal shelter. It is an important service that we provide to this community. There are a number of public health issues that arise when animals and animal populations begin to grow uncontained. And so the animal shelter has been serving this community for a number of years. The building is undersized for the volume that we serve. And the layout of the building, it wasn't designed specifically for this purpose, and so it doesn't function as well as it should for our staff. So that results in lower quality of service and a lower volume that we can maintain and work with for the community. We don't just serve the City of Commerce, but we also serve most of the northern half of Hunt County through an agreement that we have with the Hunt County organization. And so we decided or determined that we needed to expand that shelter. And when that conversation started 5 years ago, $1.5 million was the number. I believe Mount Pleasant was able to construct a new animal shelter for about $2 million. When this conversation started, we weren't looking to build something like they had, and so we felt like 1.5 was the right number. That was before COVID, and that was before the construction industry and the prices for construction material skyrocketed. Fast forward through the design process, we did a design build process rather than a traditional delivery. So that means that we selected the general contractor, HWH out of Paris, at the beginning of this project so that the contractor was involved with the design. Some of the value that is created there is I have many friends that are architects and engineers, and this is not meant to be disparaging to them, and I tell them this when I visit with them. Engineers and architects are wonderful at drawing things on paper, but they don't actually build the things that they draw on paper. And so sometimes it's beneficial to have the builder at the table while they're drawing the pictures so that we can find out if it's really the best way to build it while they draw it. And so we've benefited greatly through that process. And one of the other benefits or values of a design-build approach is that when the design is finished, the contractor then has to give us a guaranteed maximum price. And when we adopt and lock in that guaranteed maximum price, the builder is now at risk. And so if they give us, and they have given us, a guaranteed maximum price of $3,354,935. So if we approve this price, they are then at risk. And if the construction costs more than $3,354,935, the builder has to pay all of the overage. And that's part of the benefit of this alternative delivery. If they come in under that price, and so if they can build it for cheaper than $3,354,935, technically all of that savings comes back to the city. The way I drafted and the way we approved the contract with the builder is that if they come in under budget, we split the savings with them 50-50 up to a max of, I think, $30,000. So they can make an additional $30,000 of profit by coming in under budget, which is a percentage point of the project, and that's significant for a builder. So they're incentivized to come in under budget. They have risk if they come in over budget. And so that's the purpose of a guaranteed maximum price. And so through the design process and through the work that the builder has done, they are submitting, again, $3,354,935 as their guaranteed maximum price. I am asking council to consider an additional $150,000 as owner's contingency. Anyone that's built anything recognizes that no plan survives contact with the enemy. Something's going to come up during construction. And if we have an owner's contingency, that allows us to quickly to respond to what those issues are. But the city controls that contingency, not the contractor. If we put the contractor into their budget number, they get to decide how to spend the contingency. We're recommending that the owner's contingency remain in our control. And so that would be approving a guaranteed maximum price of $3,354,935. That's the contract guaranteed maximum price for them. But I would like the council to approve a final price of $3,504,935 so that we have the additional $150,000 of owner's contingency. That is 4.5% of the construction budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Lisenby?
This is returning all of the dual kennels and guillotine doors to the entire expansion. At one part of the design, we had removed half of those guillotine doors and external kennels. Council instructed us to put those back in. So this price contains some of the value engineering that we did in design to get the price down, but it maintains the functionality and the performance of those dual indoor and outdoor kennels.
Any questions?
That includes the gutters that they wash them out.
Yes.
Okay, there being no questions, may I have a motion, please?
Okay, I'm gonna make it again. Make a motion to approve and award the GMP amendment with HWH for the Commerce Animal Shelter Expansion Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 13, public hearing and consideration of a request by Leonore James Garquis Holdings LLC for approval of a resolution to replat lots 6 and 7 of the original Town of Commerce in addition to the City of Commerce, Hunt County, Texas, to divide property ID 54344, legal description S4380, original Town of Commerce, Block 18, Lot 6-7, acres .41, into Lot 1, acres .275, and Lot 2, acres .134, A2 Apartment Dwelling District. Mr. Harper, Assistant Director of Community Development.
Staff was presented with a replat at this location at 1405 Locust Street. Upon review, we found that the property line would go through the existing off-street parking access for the existing structure, as well as it would drop the new lot below A2 regulations for lot area and lot width. P&Z recommended denial based off of the zoning regulations. The applicant, about a week later, presented a revised site plan and it still didn't meet the regulations. And if my math was correct, it looked like the property line that would come into play would go right through the existing structure on the north side. Staff recommends denial based off of the regulations.
Are there any questions for Mr. Harper? There being no questions, this item does require a public hearing. So at 6:55, we are open for a public hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to address this topic to the council? There being none, at 6:55, I close the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Harper. May I have a motion?
I move that we deny the replat.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 4, first reading, public hearing and consideration of an ordinance authorizing a conditional use permit to allow for a tattoo and/or body piercing parlor for the property located at 1201 Park Street, Commerce, Texas. Property ID 54158, legal description S4380, original town of Commerce, Block 3, Lot 18 acres. Lot 18 acres are .1002, Quarter District. Mr. Harper, Assistant Director of Community Development.
The applicant approached staff with conditional use permit for the tattoo bar body piercing use in the corridor district. Upon review, staff did not find any issues with the existing structure or the use as it has been approved in the past in the corridor district. Further, a lot of this will fall on the state regulations of pending zoning and building use approval. Staff recommends approval, and P&Z recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Harper? This item also requires a public hearing. So at 6:57, we are open for public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the council on this topic? There being none, at 6:57, I close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Motion that we pass on the first reading.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries on the first reading. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Item 15.
One more reading. We have to do this again, second reading next month, but.
Item 15, second reading, discussion and possible action on ordinance regarding the City of Commerce, Texas Municipal Retirement System benefits, adopting non-retroactive repeating COLAs for retirees and their beneficiaries under TMRS Act 853-404 F and F1 and 2, authorizing annually accruing updated service credits and transfer updated service credits. Ms. Campbell, Finance Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, currently, the city contributes a 2-to-1 match for all existing employees into their TMRS, which is their retirement system. Employees contribute 5% of their paycheck into their retirement. After 5 years, they're vested. We're not asking to change any of that. That's all going to remain the same. What this is asking is that we want to change our COLA for retired employees from being retroactive to non-retroactive. Having a COLA is actually a really big benefit that we have for our employees, and it's a very expensive benefit that we have for our employees. And so changing it from a retroactive to a non-retroactive will help the city save a little bit of money while still giving them the benefit. The new COLA calculation is considered a non-retroactive repeating COLA. It only looks back at the change in CPI over the last 12 months. So if it's retroactive, it would go all the way back to whenever they retired. Instead, non-retroactive just looks at the last 12 months and adjusts it that way. This will not change anybody's benefits that they're currently getting. It will just change them going forward. Does anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions for Ms. Campbell?
And the effective date would be January 1st for 2024.
There being no questions, may I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve on second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Item 16 on the agenda, City Manager's Report. Mr. Lisenby, City Manager.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. I believe in the audience we have Ms. Dutton with us, and so I would like to extend an offer to her to come to the podium and make any public comments that you would like to address the council and the community. We do record these, and they're available to be seen by the public later as well. So, Ms. Dutton, if you have anything you would like to say.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight and allowing me just a few minutes. I apologize for coming in just a little bit late and not being here for public audience. But anyway, I really just wanted to be here and to address y'all one more time before the special election runoff that is occurring on January 30th. We have early voting January 22nd through the 26th. It is, no one got 51% of the vote in the first election on November 7th. So it has come down to a runoff between me and my opponent. I just wanted to remind y'all that I'm from Van Zandt County and a former school board member. I'm very interested in the success of House District 2, and that's Hopkins, Hunt, and Van Zandt counties. I'm very much in favor of local control, and Austin is not local. We talked earlier this evening about independent school districts or anything but independent these days. We only have just a small sliver of control over our school districts. As a former school board member, that's one of the reasons that I'm running for this seat, is because we had very little control over our own school districts and making decisions for ourselves. It kind of came down to the minutes on the calendar and school colors and cheerleader constitutions. And I know that you all have a similar struggle and challenge here at the city level for the same thing. Unfunded mandates are a concern. And this House district is needing some very valuable resources in the form of roads, infrastructure, and I've sat here and heard about some of the grants that you're applying for to better your community. And you need a state representative that is going to fight for those resources for you and to form those relationships at the agency level and with you all. State Representative Dan Flynn was a friend of mine, and I supported him through his elections, and I want to be a similar legislator. I didn't always agree with everything with Dan, but I don't always agree with everything with my husband either. But one of the things that I remember about Dan Flynn when I was with the school district, and I worked for the school district before I ran for school board, and I was working for the assistant superintendent, and I remember one time Dan Flynn called Susie McWilliams from the House floor because he had a question about a piece of legislation and he wanted to know how that would affect Van ISD. I want to be that kind of legislator. So I'll stick around till after the meeting and visit with y'all, but thank you very much for having me and allowing me a few minutes. And I did want to comment about one thing that you were talking about with your GMP contract. Our small business is that we are consultants for lenders for commercial construction projects, and I just want to give you a vote of confidence for that negotiating that contract. That's a very good contract that you've negotiated. Y'all have gotten a good deal. So thank you again for having me, and I'll see you after.
Mayor, I want to invite up Jamie Campbell for our finance update.
So as of November 2023, we have received $305,000 in sales tax revenue, and that brings us right to about 19% of our overall budgeted numbers for sales tax revenue. In November, we continue to see growth in our retail category as well as our accommodation and food service categories, which is what we would expect to see. It's always nice to see it growing. When we look at our retail specifically, as expected, we received a large semi-annual payment from one of our vendors. That's why you see the SKU that goes to other miscellaneous stores. Online shopping continues to be strong for us, and over the last few months, it has been greater than we have seen. We're seeing that trend go up. I think a lot of that has to do with we're seeing more Black Fridays not being actually in the stores, but people are just shopping online more and more and more, and so it seems to be better for commerce the more online shopping that we're doing. So,
if I may take a shameless plug, since we have a candidate in the room with us, the bottom part of this graph on the screen demonstrates significant impact state legislation had on small communities regarding how sales tax are allocated. Prior to, I think the change was in 2020 or 2021, the sales tax was allocated to the shipping point. So if you ordered something from Amazon and it shipped out of Round Rock, but you lived in Commerce, Round Rock got the sales tax even though you lived in Commerce and made the purchase here. That changed, and so now the sales tax is allocated to the city where the shipping is destination. So if you live in Commerce and you place an order on Amazon, Commerce gets the sales tax from that sale. Round Rock lost that sales tax. And so there is a conglomeration of large cities that have collectively started to sue the state to overturn this and take it back to the way that it was. Clearly the small communities would really like to keep getting that sales tax because the people living here, using our roads and using our services, made that purchase here. I think the intent of that is the sales tax goes to where the purchase was made. And there will be opportunities for the state legislature to defend that move, and we would prefer it to stay the way it is now rather than go back to the way it was. I shall now get off my soapbox and end my shameless plug.
Moving to accommodation and food services, the breakdown for full service versus limited service compared to 2022 to 2023 is only slightly different. The breakdown is very similar to where it was last year. But what has changed is that we've seen an increase of almost $7,000 from November last year, November this year. And that is not because of just one or two places. We've actually seen multiple locations had an increase in sales tax revenue. It's not just because one or two locations have all of a sudden just jumped up really high. So my new favorite slide, and I know it's yours too. So looking at our sales tax all the way back from 2015, we're now going to be forecasting a trend to the end of the year, looking at a 95% confidence. So 95% confidence from what we're budgeting. So either we're going to be, you're looking at 95% confidence that you're going to forecast higher than budget or lower than budget. And so as the year goes on, you'll see this kind of, those three lines that are at the very end, you'll see them kind of start sectioning out, getting closer and closer together. But this is just so that you guys can kind of see overall where we've come and where we're where our trends are going and where we're actually forecasting for the rest of the year. So that was my goal for this year, was to do a whole forecast. I was very excited about it. I know Wallace is very excited about
Nerd.
it. So looking at our property tax, as of November, we have reached 11% collections on our budgeted property tax revenue. We have received $506,000 in property tax revenue. The big thing that I do want to point out is related to our past year collections. we had to give about $50,000 in refunds in November, which is not normal. So what you'll see is we're down at the very bottom, that bottom line there, where we have delinquent taxes. Normally we see that number just kind of creeping up a little bit. Well, we're in the red. We're starting in the red this year. We're not starting in the black, about $50,000. And so that all happened in November. We had some really large refunds, and all I can assume is that there were people who have been fighting their taxes, and they finally settled. And so when they finally settled, what they did is they refunded taxes that they have paid in the past to true up to what their new tax valuations are. Unfortunately, it's just an assumption, but that's the best I can give you. So that's going to affect our overall property tax numbers for a couple of months. But overall, I think that we'll see that kind of net out and balance out. But that's all I have for you this night.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
Ms. Jacobson?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. It is that time of year where I do not have very many special events for you because Christmas is approaching. As a reminder, I wanted to let you know that City Hall observes city holidays that fall on a Saturday. We observe those holidays on a Friday. And if they fall on a Sunday, we observe that holiday on a Monday. This year, it's a little bit odd in that we have Christmas Eve, which falls on a Sunday, and Christmas Day, which falls on a Monday. As a result, City Hall and non-essential services will be closed on Friday and on Monday, and we will reopen on Tuesday, December 26th. I did want to share with you the City of Commerce City Hall will be a polling place for the runoff election for our state representative. As a reminder, this was mentioned earlier in the evening, that will take place on January 30th. We will be a polling location in the City of Commerce from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you can vote here on that day. Of course, as a reminder, you have to register to vote 30 days prior to an election. So you've already missed your opportunity, or we're coming up on your last day to register to vote if you have not already done so for that January 30th election date. And then I'll have for you next month a slide for this, but coming up for our purposes, we have our uniform election date on May 4th of 2024, which is for our city council. Up for re-election this year is place 2, currently held by Miss Becky Thompson, and place 4, currently held by Mr. Jim Ayers. That will be for a 3-year term from May of 2024 to May of 2027. The last day to register to vote for that May 4th election for our local council is April 4th. So you will have to register to vote if you haven't done so already by then in order to vote in that election. We will be a early voting polling place for local elections from April 22nd through April 30th. That's from 8:15 to 4:45, Monday through Friday. And then we will be a polling place on election day, which will be Saturday, May 4th. From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The filing period, this is the important part because this is what's coming up. The filing period, in order to file for a place on the ballot to run for city council in May, you have to file between the dates of January 17th, which is a Wednesday at 8 a.m., through Friday, February 16th at 5 p.m. So you have those 30 days to stop by the city secretary's office and fill out an application for a place on the ballot if you decide to run. I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Mayor, under personnel update, I want to read something so that I don't get the facts wrong. In the spring of 2023, Chief of Police Calais Belitz created a program that allows the City of Commerce to hire qualified civilians for a spot within the Commerce Police Department. They would then begin full-time employment and begin learning about the department while also attending the police academy at the Texas A&M University of Commerce. The Commerce Police Department sponsors and pays their tuition through that program. After reviewing a round of applications, the city offered spots to Miss Anna Reeves and Mr. Giovanni Morgan. Both have completed police academy and officially became state certified peace officers today. They will move from their roles of civilian patrol trainee to peace officer of the Commerce Police Department tomorrow when they graduate from the police academy. We want to congratulate Ms. Reeves and Mr. Morgan on this accomplishment, and we wish them the best of luck over their careers. And we also want to congratulate Chief Belitz for the success of this program in our first year. And so it's important to note that these are locals that have grown up in Commerce, that are from Commerce, and now they will be serving Commerce as law enforcement officers. And we're very happy with the success of that program. Finally, project updates. We've got a lot going on, and so the library continues to be under renovation. They have removed all of the exterior from the back. They finished pouring piers today. The contractors are going to take a break for Christmas, and they'll come back after the Christmas break and resume. And so next week, we will select colors for the painting of the interior of the library. We'll meet with the select portion of the library board to go over color samples. It is my intention to try to keep that process civil and attempt to get neutral colors for the inside of our library, but it is the library board, and so if we end up with pink polka dots, it's not my doing, I promise. Washington Street construction is continuing to move forward. There is a change that we made that may impact the public and you may get calls for. They're currently opening up Washington Street to replace the water mains. Then they'll move over about 6 feet and they'll cut up Washington Street to replace the sewer mains so that we're not putting new street on top of old lines. The plan called for them, once they'd finished the water line, to lay down new asphalt and patch the trench with new asphalt, then open up the sewer line, and then patch that trench with new asphalt, and then grind it all up and put down new asphalt. And so we decided that filling those trenches with base material was cheaper than filling it with asphalt that you're fixing to grind up and throw away. And so as a result, those trenches are not being capped with asphalt, they're being capped with base material. It will save us some money, but it will include some dust as people travel up and down that road, and I imagine we'll hear some feedback. But the decision was made to try to save some money by putting in base instead of asphalt. Those are all my project updates, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Mr. Lisenby?
Just the trenches they're not level right now. They have a dip, so it's rather bumpy. Is that going to change?
Well, until we redo the entire street surface, it will be rough. Even if you put asphalt in, when you backfill a trench like that, we're doing it in 4-inch lifts. They have to compact it, put another 4-inch, compact it, but it's still going to move, and over time, it will still continue to drop. That will happen until we complete the final installation of the new street surface. That's just going to be a work in progress for a while. Again, they're looking to do water and sewer between now and probably March or April. Starting in January, we'll redo Park Street that goes through City Park, across Aldridge and down to Culver. It'll take them approximately 2 months to do that section of Park Street. Then they'll move over to Hickory. It's a 2 or 3 block stretch of streets that they're going to reconstruct there. That should be March and April. And then probably May timeframe, we'll start seeing asphalt go down on Washington Street.
Is Hickory going to have curbs and everything?
Hickory will not. Hickory doesn't have curbs now, and so we're not putting curbs in. Park Street will have curbs. Washington Street will have curbs. Good question.
Any other questions for Mr. Lisenby? Thank you, Mr. Lisenby. Item 17, we do have a requirement to recess into executive session. So at 7:19, we are recessed.